All of these stuffed animals keep falling everywhere. I feel like I've been talking about making this video for 500 years. And now here we are. Hi, my name is Mia, and for those of you who don't know me, I am a junior at NYU. I study film and television production, but I just got back home from doing a study abroad semester in Australia, which is so random. I am going to tell you everything you need to know and everything I learned from studying abroad. I picked some of your questions that you've been asking through YouTube and Instagram. Also, YouTube is probably the best place to ask questions. I see the comments right away, but if you DM me on Instagram, it goes to like my requests and I don't actually get notifications for that, so it may take me a while. But I have finally compiled some questions, so I've got a little bit of a structure. This is like the general order that we're gonna go for answering questions based off what you guys asked. So yeah, let's begin. How much stuff did you take with you on the plane, and did you have to get more things flown / shipped over from the States? I think I had 2 big suitcases and then a rolling suitcase and my backpack. That was pretty good for me. So I didn't get anything shipped over, but I just checked in some luggage when I flew. And what organization did you go through? I tried to prioritize just bringing clothes. I actually didn't bring film stuff because one good thing about NYU is they have so many global programs, but Sydney was not one of the Tisch ones, which is the art school at NYU, so they didn't have any film classes. Literally went and just did a gen ed semester, and I'm gonna go back to New York next month and do a lot of film again. So I was able to knock out a lot of my gen eds there, which was nice, but I didn't bring any of my film equipment with me because of it. Clothes were the priorities. NYU housed us and they had a fully furnished room. NYU gave us kitchen and linen packs, so I didn't have to bring any bedding or really even any decorations, which was super nice. And so speaking of that, how did you find your apartment and how expensive was it? NYU set everything up for us. We lived in student housing at the University of Sydney. We lived at the Regiment building, which some of you already knew when I was in Sydney commenting that, and I was trying not to explicitly say it while I lived there, but yeah, it was the Regiment building and it was in a really good spot. It was a 5-minute walk to the campus, like a 10-minute walk to the library. It was literally right on campus. The one thing that is so nice, because American colleges, everyone has shared dorms, and so you're living in a bedroom with like 2 beds where you can see the other person. You're like children, you're sharing a bedroom. So in Australia, as with most other foreign countries, it's just not a common thing to do, which I feel like it makes sense because it's so weird, especially freshman year, to just throw a new like fresh 18-year-old living alone for the first time into a room with a stranger of another kid living alone for the first time, and especially when they've never met, and it's just like things are just bound to go wrong. So I got my own bedroom in Australia, which was so nice. We did have communal bathrooms and a communal kitchen downstairs, which was like my first time experiencing that, but I have a bunch of vlogs from being in Sydney and a dorm tour and everything, so if you want to go see that in detail. I think University of Sydney students have to pay a weekly or bi-weekly rent to stay there, but NYU kept it the same as our housing in New York, and so we just had to pay at the beginning. I'm interested in studying abroad at USyd next year and wanted to know how your experience differed from New York. How was the more campusy feel, the student life? It was so different from New York. I feel like I'm on FaceTime right now actually with a friend. It was so different from New York. Obviously most places are really different from New York. It's so fast paced, especially being a film student. My work hours in like school, class hours, homework hours are really a lot sometimes, and they bleed into the weekends. Being in Sydney and USyd was so much more relaxed, so much more chill. I feel like I developed such a healthy work school life, like social balance there, which was really nice. I think that a lot of the students there were really laid back and were like very mentally well. Being there is kind of, it felt like I had my state school semester, like being at a state school in the States. That's kind of what it felt like, except without a huge party scene. A lot of students there commute and they just live at home until they graduate, so it's not super common for everyone to be in dorms, which I think was different too, and probably why there wasn't a huge party scene and the campus wasn't always super busy, because if a student didn't have a class, they just wouldn't be at campus because there's no reason to be. Whereas in New York, it's like everyone is like, you're always living there, so you're always seeing people all the time. It was really easy to stay on top of work, very chill. In hindsight now, I think was good because I was so stressed in my last spring semester in New York with film and everything going on. It was like I developed really bad anxiety during that time, and I feel like going to Sydney was perfect because I actually I didn't really struggle with it at all. I felt super normal again, and I just had a lot of fun because living in that building building where all of my friends were living, but we didn't have to share a room. It was like none of us really got sick of each other, so we all wanted to hang out a lot more. And then you could go to your room and have your alone time or like get work done, and then you would just meet up with everyone. Everyone was always super down to hang out, and you could go to the beach, although taking public transport, dude, my earring just fell out again. Public transport was like an hour commute each way on the bus to the beach, which sucked. But then it's like you don't have anything else to do there. The student life, they have a lot of clubs there. They have a student organization there that hosts a lot of events. I never really ended up going to them, but they do have a lot of like food events that you'll see going on around campus. And I think if you pay a membership, then you get discounts or free food sometimes. Can you talk about how many classes / credit hours you took? I took 4 classes for this semester. I think it was about 16 credits. Usually with my film classes in New York, I'm closer to like 4 classes and 18 to 20 credits. NYU actually had their own professors there in their own classes, and it was such a small group of us that were there. I think this upcoming semester there's going to be over 50 NYU students there, but when I was there was only like 14 to 18 of us. It was so small. Everybody knew everybody. That also meant my NYU classes, I was in some NYU classes there that were like only 5 other people, and the NYU classes in Sydney were once a week, but they were 3.5 hours long. Our NYU classes were in the USyd business building, so we were still on campus, and then we were required to take one University of Sydney class while being there. I was enrolled in Introduction to Indigenous History, and that one was 3 different classes. So I had 2 lectures, which were both like only an hour, I think, and then I had a tutorial, which is we call a recitation in New York, which was also only an hour. My USyd class I feel like was so laid back, but I also think it's because the NYU classes I took in Australia were also only about Australian Indigenous history as well, and so I feel like I had a lot of overlap with the text that I was reading and the subjects I was learning, and so I think that made my USyd class easier because they were also kind of following the same timeline. And so a lot of times if I had papers, I would be able to pull sources from books I was reading in my other classes, which was super helpful. But yeah, I was just doing gen eds, so no film classes, which also made it feel like super campusy, kind of high school feeling as well, because it has been so long since I have not taken a single film or art class in a semester. Then again, how are the classes compared to NYU? Any USyd class recommendations? I only took that one USyd class, and I think it's limited to what USyd classes you can take as an exchange student. They have a list, so you can't actually take any of their classes. I really liked my professor. Students were really respectful. But yeah, it was good. Being a Tisch student and a film student, the classes are just so entirely different for very obvious reasons anyways. Did you make a lot of Aussie mates, or did you just stick with your USA people? Were there any culture shocks? And please tell me you tried pavlova. I actually didn't get to try pavlova. I talked about it so many times with so many different people, never tried it. But okay, the friend thing is so interesting because I met so many different Australians who told me that they thought that Sydney and the university and just like Australia in general was a very cliquey place. People really stuck together with, I guess, their friend group and didn't really let people in. I didn't end up making a lot of super close Australian friends. I did have Aussie friends. I met some people who were living in the building with me who also were friends with my friend Bryce. She's one of the people that kind of convinced me to go to Sydney because she'd been there the semester before, so they had met her and they were friends with her. So I like met them and I got to hang out with them, which was nice. I met some people at a Halloween party. I would just meet like Aussies at coffee shops. A lot of times there was like Courtyard Cafe, and a lot of times I would just end up talking to people there. Or they have like this this study abroad mates program that you can sign up for. I'm sure they'll send you an email about it, but they basically pair you with a student there who's supposed to help you transition, I guess. I actually signed up for it and I got paired with this girl who was super cool. I hung out with her and then a couple other people sometimes, but then that kind of like faded off towards the end. I think everyone kind of just gave up on that. But yeah, then otherwise my main core friend group were the NYU people, my NYU friends that I hung out with. They were such a small cohort too this time, so we really had a very tight-knit kind of group because there were so few of us. Yeah, I don't know, it's super interesting. I've been watching TikToks from other Americans who've been studying abroad, and they've kind of been saying the same thing, where it's like they've been really solo during their study abroad, or they've only had like 1 or 2 friends. I think if I had made more of an effort to try and kind of build more Aussie friendships or like an Aussie friend group, I think it definitely would have been possible, but I just was so comfortable with like the NYU people that I didn't. I don't think it's impossible to make friends there who are locals, but I do kind of see where people are coming from when they talk about how cliquey it is. Not in a way that's really in your face like Mean Girls, but I do think it's just like no one really makes an effort to try and meet new people in that way. Any culture shocks? I think there are a lot of little things that I just don't even remember now because I was there for so long. Oh my god. Okay, well obviously they drive on a different side of the road, but the lingo, there are certain things that they said, and I remember being so baffled the first time I got there because I literally knew like nothing about Australia before I went there. I ended up there because of the beach really, and I just like didn't know where to go, and their lingo is different, even things that a lot of you might know this, but I just didn't know it. I remember I was talking to one of my Aussie friends and she was talking about doing something in the like something arvo. It's like afternoon. I had to have her repeat it a couple of times because I had no idea what she was saying. It was like arvo what? It's just little things. They say stroll instead of going for a walk, or keen. There's so many that I can't even remember, but I've had so many conversations with so many different Australians about it and like them telling me different lingo and I just have no idea what it is. That was the biggest culture shock because I could not believe that like so out of touch with lingo. For your recap, if you could talk about nightlife, the dating scene, rough cost of living while there, etc. I was wondering what nightlife was like, nightlife again. Okay, this is gonna be so biased. I feel like everyone is gonna have such a different take on this, but Sydney nightlife is really not amazing. It's really not. Sydney is more of like, it reminds me of some parts of California in the way where I think people prioritize kind of waking up early and being super into health and wellness and being super active opposed to the nightlife scene. There would be times when my friends and I would go out and we would be at a bar. It would close, so we would go try to find another bar and no bars were open. It was a Saturday night and every single bar closed by midnight at the latest. And we were in Surrey Hills, which was supposed to be one of the really good going out areas, and everything was closed by midnight. Everyone starts going out there so much earlier. If you are in New York, people aren't even at the pregame or going out until 9 or 10 p.m. Having everything closed by midnight was so weird to us and so hard to figure out. I don't think we fully adjusted to that. There are some really cool bars though, since they have the CBD, the business area, like the main part of the city. There's a lot of bars and clubs over there. You just have so many different ones. If you go near Bondi, you get like different vibes everywhere you go. So you have more of like your surf beachy bars over there, hotel bars, and then in the city you have more of like, I went to this really cool like Uncle Ming's. I also vlogged that. That was like a underground Japanese sake bar, which was really cool. There's Cantina OK in the business district too, which is just like a quick like hop in hop out type of thing. It's at the end of an alley and I think it's just in this little garage. That place is cute, but yeah, they have a lot of places like that. There are a lot of places to go, but I just think it's not what I was used to. I think we get really spoiled living in Manhattan obviously, and there's also, because a lot of people don't live on campus, there's not really a lot of parties or like kickbacks that much that I heard of. But then that could be because I hadn't grown up with these kids, and I think a lot of them had either been in uni together for 3+ years or they had grown up together since elementary school. But yeah, the nightlife was not amazing. It's there, but it wasn't my favorite. That is not a reason that I would encourage someone to go to Sydney for. I never talk about dating stuff online. I don't want that to be the main thing that I talk about ever, because that is not what's most interesting to me in my life. So I never talk about this, but I've been getting a lot of questions about this for Sydney. So basically, in New York, I never go on dating apps because some of my friends have Hinge or Tinder or Bumble in New York, and they'll open the app and like as soon as they open the app, we see all of our friends on there, or like people we're in classes with or acquaintances with, and it's just kind of like the longer you're in New York, the more and more people you get to know. And so I see so many people that I know on there where it's like I could never, like I just don't want to have a dating app in New York. I don't want to be perceived by people I know on there. I don't know, it's just not for me. But then I got to Sydney and I know nobody. The first month, all of my friends started getting it, so I was like, okay, whatever, I'll do it. I did have Hinge while I was in Australia and it was actually kind of fun. I've never done it before. And I'm gonna be so real with you. I think the reason that it was fun was because I knew I was leaving. Such low stakes. Don't have anything to compare because I never used Hinge in like New York or something, which I bet you probably would have a great success rate there because there's so many people there. I feel like I had a good success rate with Hinge there. I met a lot of cool people. I went on a lot of fun dates. I really liked it actually, doing it, studying abroad, because that was like a really interesting way to meet locals and try new places. A really interesting way to learn about Australia. But then I also met people organically as well. So, you know, whatever works for you. But I would say don't make it the priority of your study abroad exchange because everything is so new. And so don't surround this whole experience with a dating app. Study abroad is so weird because you have the opportunity to do so many new things. So it's just so important that you try, figure out what's most important to you because there's just like endless opportunities. What I wish I knew before moving there, I don't know. I wish I knew that the nightlife sucked a little bit. I don't know if there's anything that really would have been that huge for me to know before moving there. I guess I wish I had started traveling earlier because I kind of took the first month to settle in. But then again, it's like everything happens for a reason. So I don't know if there's anything huge that I wish I had known before I moved there. I mean, the exchange rate was amazing. Like every time my friends and I would buy something, like even food, we'd be like, oh, the American discount. One thing I wish I knew for packing was I brought a lot of clothes. I do like to dress up. I mean, this is like not giving that at all right now. But in New York, people dress up for class, especially at Tisch. You want to be perceived well when you're on the street. Like you see all of those TikToks of people just approaching people on the street in New York. I think because this was kind of more like campusy state school feel, it was very laid back. I would dress up in the beginning and then I quickly just realized like everybody is just wearing sweats or like very simple basics like tank tops and shorts, and I wish I didn't bring that many clothes to Australia because I like didn't need to wear them. Advice on traveling alone. I did a lot of my trips with my NYU friends, but my last trip before I left Australia, I went to Cairns to go see the Great Barrier Reef, and I did that alone. It would be like so OG, I was so baby, but my freshman year, spring break, I went and I did a solo trip to Paris, and then I went to Wales to visit my grandparents, and I went back to Paris. Stayed in a hostel for my first time ever. Also my first time ever traveling alone like that. And I feel like that was kind of a really rough experience for me because it was like end of COVID time, and then I was I think I was just kind of sad. I was sad being alone then, and so I think I had kind of a rough time, and I was so sleep deprived and like it was just rough. But this time was so much better. That's something I got really good at in Australia, was slowing down and really enjoying having time alone. And so when I got to Cairns, I was also super sleep deprived. But I just went to a coffee shop and then I got breakfast and I walked around. And I think one of the best ways to travel alone, just to be curious. Like I think if you're curious, then you'll have fun doing anything, because you'll want to see stuff and you'll want to do stuff and you'll want to try new things, and then you'll also want to meet people and talk to people. Staying at hostels is a really good way to do that because you're in a room with strangers, and so I would book the female only dorms that they're listed as. But yeah, generally there's a lot of people that are around kind of my age, and then I don't think it matters if you go alone at all. It's kind of fun. You have no idea what's gonna happen. How did you have time for all of your trips? So I wish I had more time to travel even more, but girl, I was running out of money. We would plan a lot of our trips to be on weekends, so they were usually like very fast trips. My camera literally died as I was mid-speaking, so we're gonna see if we can finish this really quick before it dies again. Yeah, but basically the trips, we try to plan them on weekends, and I also did my schedule, so I only had classes Monday through Wednesday because I knew I would want those extra 2 days, Thursday and Friday, to travel. Plan strategically. You know, a lot of people just skipped classes a lot. That's just not up my alley, but if there's a will, there's a way. But I will definitely say don't get so caught up with schoolwork that you don't do anything, because I think there's definitely a healthy way to be able to do work while you travel. My friend Anna traveled the most out of all of us, and she would like write her papers. She would stay awake for like entire 6-hour flights and write an entire paper on the flight and then just like go to places. So opposite way, but like when there's a will, there's a way. Aussie must-dos. I mean, there's all of the touristy stuff that you have to do. Seeing the Opera House for the first time for me was crazy because I'd only ever seen that in like Finding Nemo when I was little. Australia had never been on my radar, so that was just something I never thought I would see in real life. There is this really crazy railroad track in the Blue Mountains that I did with my mom, and I might have vlogged that, but it was like the steepest one ever, I think, and we went up it backwards, like at the very front row, hanging off the edge. bro, this needs to chill. Almost 90-degree angle railroad track, and that was kind of terrifying. That was so fun. Traveling, Melbourne's a fun place to go to. I thought the nightlife was better in Melbourne. Going to the beach, I went surfing in the south coast. We just try to travel as much as possible to like anywhere we could go and buy a cheap ticket to. I don't even know what's like an Aussie must-do that I did. It's so weird because since I'm back here, it's like I was there for so long that I can't even tell what was new and strictly Australian that I have been doing or things I've been eating, because I think I talked about a store with my parents last night and I swear I've seen it in America and they both said they'd never heard of it. My mom had never seen it until she went to Australia with me, so I'm like, I have no sense of time at all right now because I just came from summer and I'm like, how am I going back to winter and like spring semester of New York? That makes zero sense. You should go to a sausage sizzle. I actually went to a few of them. It was so funny because I didn't know about those either. It's literally just like a barbecue, but they're grilling sausages, but instead of hot dog buns, they just take a piece of plain white bread and you put the sausage on it, but you're supposed to put it on diagonal and then you close it and hold it like that. I remember being super surprised when I did my first sausage sizzle and everyone, like all the Aussies were telling me they were like, hold it diagonal, and I was like, oh, just with this. Is there anything you didn't have the chance to do that you wish you could have? Australia is so huge. I got to travel to so many places. I traveled so much along the East Coast and then I went down to Tasmania. I just wish I could have traveled more. I really wish I had gone the Outback, and I know it sounds stupid, but Emma's there right now in Alice Springs, I think, and I feel like that's such a big part of Australia and I wish I had gotten to see that, but you know, one day. I didn't go over to the West Coast either, so I didn't see Perth or like Darwin or anything, so I think just more traveling that I wish I could have done. I don't know, I feel like I did so much. The do's and don'ts to studying abroad and just advice you give to anyone wanting to study abroad in Australia in general. Do's and don'ts, I think it's kind of just what I've been saying so much. It's just like learning to say yes to opportunities, to hanging out with new people, to meeting new people, to traveling to new places, putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, not dangerous situations, but also doing things alone too. I feel like that's a good way to meet new people. Going to coffee shops alone or going to new places alone. I think just exploring and having fun. Keeping good grades are important and keeping up with your work, and you're there to learn. But I think my don'ts would be, don't over obsess over things like school or dating, because there's just so many things for you to do at a study abroad, and it's so hard to make a video about it because you have no idea what to expect and everyone's experience is going to be so different and it's going to teach you such drastically different things. Overall, how did you feel about the whole experience in retrospect and kind of just like things that I didn't expect? I still can't believe that I've done it. I think it's going to take even longer to settle that I was in Australia for 5 months, which is just insane. I think it was a really great experience and I am so grateful that I got to do it, and I'm so glad I made some really amazing friends and I've met so many really cool, interesting people. It was so cool to get to immerse myself and like actually live and not just visit a place, especially a place that was so foreign to me. I have never been obsessed with like Australian like TV shows or movies or their culture, really, where it was like this thing that I was super excited for and I knew a lot about. So I think that was super interesting. When I was picking a study abroad place, I wanted somewhere that was so far away and so different from anything I've ever experienced, and I wanted to go somewhere I've never been. I did not know a single person, even from NYU, who was going to Sydney either to study abroad, so I didn't even go with any friends. And I feel like by putting myself in the most uncomfortable situation, you get the biggest rewards, and study abroad is an experience that I feel like is supposed to be one of those experiences where you can go as extreme as you want or need to, and so I kind of just went all the way, and I definitely think it paid off. I learned so much, learned a lot, like I said, about what a healthy work and social balance looks like for me, and I finally learned how to kind of chill out, I guess, in like work sense, because the US I feel like can be so hyper productive, being so far away from it and being surrounded by so many people who were so laid back about work kind of stuff was really good for me. And I also learned to say yes more, doing new things and meeting new people. I got to travel to Asia for the first time and to all these different places that I've never been to before. I just cannot believe I did so much this year and so many new things, and I'm just so thankful. I had a really good time. It did get kind of boring at the end, I won't lie, but if you made it all the way through this entire video and you're planning on studying abroad or you have studied abroad, comment down below where it was or it would be because I think that's so fun. There's so many different places people study abroad at. I also met a lot of Americans from like all of these different universities across the states too, which was really cool. So yeah, comment that down below if you made it. And I will see you guys later. When I pull out my like Australian clothes in New York, it's gonna be so lit. I have these really tacky koala shirts. It's gonna be awesome. So stay tuned. Bye.